I am at the Whitney, hoping to see something by Michael West. A quick breeze around what's on view of the permanent collection implies that she's in storage, but I'm here now, so I might as well see what else is on. Entering one of the exhibitions, the 2-floor retrospective on American artist Josh Klein, I stop in front of a piece of work. 2 laptops, one made by Apple, the other by HP, have been cut in half vertically, then loosely bound together with American flag printed tape. Around me are other similar works. 2 brands of washing machine, 2 brands of blender, a convection and a gas-powered oven. Each pair is cut in half and stuck together with tape, although some use a monochrome red or blue rather than the printed stuff. As I and the other museum goers dutifully ponder around the gallery, wearing our most contemplative scowls and trying to decide if we're missing something, I feel a hot breath on my neck, then a whisper. Do you get it? I whirl around. It is Josh Klein himself, wearing a blue hoodie and a puckish grin, staring at me with a crazed hunger in his eyes. Do you get it? Do you see how it's about America? How it's about consumerism and partisanship, and how this country forces us to make a million little choices that it then uses to make us more and more divided on every level? Yeah, I got that. Good. See you in the next room. Before I can reply, the world comes back into focus. He is gone, and I am alone again at the Whitney, surrounded by the haves and their ponderers. As I continue through the exhibition, I am faced with the same experience over and over. I walk up to a piece of work, I engage with it, I get it, and I move on. Rinse and repeat. In his Forever series, Klein uses a combination of actors and AI to create videos of interviews with dead celebrities as if they're alive today. Get it? In Unemployment, he fills a shopping cart with bottles the color of human skin. Get it? In Skittles, he fills a mini fridge with smoothies whose labels list unconventional ingredients.
Do you get it? Do you fucking get it?
Yes, Josh. I get it, but what do I do with it now? Now that I get it, now that I get the idea, what's the difference between this and a piece of paper stuck to a wall that says capitalism divides us by making us choose sides on issues that don't matter? Because I had to figure it out myself? Okay, then what's the difference between this and like a word jumble that spells out corporations don't care about you? They're both needlessly encoded messages meant to make their solvers feel like winners, but a work of art is never only a puzzle to be solved. A work of art is meant to express more than just a one-dimensional idea. It's meant to express a process and to provide a framework for a viewer to have their own individual experience, their own process. Good art is like a good conversation. And just like conversation, it's complicated, for better or for worse, by the impossibility of knowing another person's mind. Though it may seem coded and abstruse, purposefully inscrutable as if for the sake of projecting some air of mystery and enigma, that's only sometimes the case. Other times, it's simply convoluted in the same way as someone else's thinking, alien to us until we find a way to translate it into our own language, literal or emotional. At its best, art can be a way to understand one another when traditional communication isn't enough. Contrarily, wholly conceptual art like that of Klein and others, from Marcel Duchamp to Damien Hirst, it's more like an op-ed or a picket sign. There's no conversation, there's no back and forth. Here's the perspective, take it or leave it. This isn't art, these are high culture memes for the intellectual class. They might as well be Seinfeld jokes. What's the deal with systemic racism? I mean, who's running this system? Who is running this system? Let me show you an example. Take Venn diagrams, brackets under the spotlight, a work by Argentinian artist Amalia Pica on display in the MoMA's permanent collection. The piece essentially has a small room to itself in the museum and consists of a pair of colored spotlights pointed at a wall, overlapping each other like a Venn diagram. Get it? No, me neither. And even if you think you do, you almost certainly don't. Hello, children. Would you like to hear a story about the horrors of life under a dictatorship? Alright, settle down now. Once upon a time, in the 1970s, there was a fascist government in control of Argentina. The fascist government wanted to make sure the population remained fractured along socio-political lines. So, they decided to make big changes to the education system. They doctored history books, they censored literature, and they even banned the fucking Venn diagram. No, seriously, isn't that wild? They were apparently worried that children would come to the conclusion that because a person could be part of one group and also another group, that fascism didn't make sense, so they banned a type of diagram. Wild, right? And a great story. And yeah, if this was shown to someone who lived in Argentina at the time, when 30,000 so-called desaparecidos had been kidnapped and disappeared by the state, the reaction might be incredibly emotional, but even that hypothetical reaction would be to the idea, what the content of the work represented in its context, not the work itself. For me, and I can only assume the majority of Argentinian history non-experts viewing the work without reading the explanation, it's essentially entirely without meaning. Like, without the backstory, what else can you glean from this piece beyond Venn diagrams? Weird, right? Trouble is, art has to function equally well outside of any context. It's possible you might get more from Picasso's Guernica by knowing that Guernica was a Nazi-bombed town in Spain, and more still by being from the next town over. But it takes no prior knowledge or contextual explanation to feel the writhing of bodies, the pain and fear in a pair of widened eyes. Art lets us explore so much more than flat truth, historical fact. Why not use it to express and explore what it means to have the idea, the emotions of it, the churning contradictions of a mind wrestling with itself? As it stands, the only emotions that can be felt in response to conceptual work like this are emotions we came in with, already attached to the content. Sometimes it's a specific connection, sometimes a more general one, but in either case it is aroused in us intellectually, rather than aesthetically, on a more primal level. Please don't take this to mean that I think there's no value to conceptual art at all. On the contrary, some of the most important work of the last century has been conceptual art. Duchamp's Fountain, Magritte's Pipe, Yves Klein's Void. These are seminal moments of art history, integral to the progress of aesthetic thought, but once you get it, you've got it, and you're good. There's nothing else to say, nothing more to see. They had something new and clever to tell you, and the only part you had to play in the process was to bear witness to their cleverness, and, if you understood it, claim a proportionate cleverness for yourself. That's why, even in its perfect form, conceptual art never really feels like art. Because it's not. It's criticism. Downstairs from the Klein exhibition, I arrive at the retrospective of Native American painter and sculptor John Quick-to-See Smith, which I'm more excited for. She at least has an eye for beauty, an interesting way with paint, and the common decency to actually make almost all of the things that she exhibits as her art. But a couple paintings in and I'm back in the dreaded loop again. Walk up, engage, get it, move on. Walk up, engage, get it, move on. Some pieces draw me in. Her set of Native American paper dolls, which advertises that the hospital gown used for smallpox victims, quote, fits every member of a Native American family, is certainly bitingly macabre, but no more than an especially dark New Yorker cartoon, and about as deep. Others are less intriguing. One canvas is pasted with newspaper clippings from her tribal newspaper, and adorned with a large outline of Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, X'd out in red. Get it? They're more complicated ideas that would be harder to fit onto a picket sign, but they're still fundamentally just ideas. And their impact relies on BYOE, rather than actually engaging with and entering into a dialogue with the work. Anyway, that's when I arrive at this piece, House and Home.
Finally, some good fucking
art. Now, there's probably some of you wondering what the difference is between this and something like that earlier piece. They're both interesting looking, aren't they? They both express a simple idea in a way that gets more complicated the more you think about it. don't they? Yeah, that's true, but only one of them is a conversation, with space for the viewer to do more than just get the point. It's not a new idea that our physical and mental lives are deeply intertwined. Whether you're a psychiatric scholar or a method actor, you'll have been told and or discovered for yourself that what we feel in our bodies invariably bleeds into our emotional state, and vice versa. The experience of art is no different. When we engage with a work of art emotionally, it's our physical empathy that reacts first. Some works let us find ourselves in their literal subjects. A pair of deep-feeling eyes, the tension of a twisting body. Other works ignite an environmental empathy, drawing us into a space that we feel we know, literally or otherwise. The strange claustrophobia of an exitless room with glassless windows. The deeply felt emptiness of a surreal city. A claustrophobic teepee with a single wooden chair. Others still may abstractly arouse in us the experience and feelings of the artist, the I of a piece. From the aching loneliness of a caged splotch of orange-red to the excited wandering of a restless line. All artistic engagement, however, relies on focus and intention, first of the artist and then of the viewer. Again, as in so many disciplines, knowledge and certainty of practice tend to be held up as the most important elements in artistic engagement. If you've done the reading and been to enough museums, then you'll engage with the art correctly, and otherwise, you won't. But in truth, the most important elements are not education and intellect. They're concentration and openness, the willingness to be made to feel as well as think. Readings, museum visits, full-on art history classes. Prior experience can at best only train that mental receptivity. At worst, and far more often, it can train the certainty that limits openness, and make the viewing experience not a generous, flexible process, but a blunt and unyielding moment of flat certainty. An art gallery is like a cocktail party, full of potential conversational partners. If you strike up a conversation with one of them and really engage with them, their inner life, their hopes and dreams, you really try to get to know them, and they barely talk back. Or they do, but the conversation seems to keep leading to the same single topic that you've already thoroughly exhausted. Oh well, you did your best. Maybe you're missing something, maybe it's missing something. Either way, as long as you look at art with openness and focus and really engage with it, you can't be wrong. So don't worry if you don't get something that everyone else says is so wonderful. Not everyone gets along. Wait, that wasn't the point of this essay at all. The point of this essay was that even if the tone of a work is aggressive, or the content is challenging, if all an artwork has is the statement it's trying to make, then it can be solved. And once it's solved, it can be put away in a little box called I get it, and never thought of again. But what an artwork can do, a scribble of graffito on a wall, or even a well-thought essay cannot, is make one feel. Far beyond the simple sympathy one might feel when reading about something in a history book. Deeply, complexly, uncertainly, contradictorily, by expressing the inexpressible, ever-churning chaos of a human mind as it wrestles with what it means to be a person. Otherwise, just put in an email.